Hello and welcome to another episode of the Rich Woman Rising podcast. I'm your host, Eloise Tompkins, and I am a money coach and psychologist. And I've also decided that I'm a little bit of a nervous system rebel as well because I love talking about the nervous system. I love talking about money, and I help you to remember who the fuck you are so that you can build a business that is regulated so that you can make more money in a way that feels good for you. And today, I want to talk about the patriarchy. I want to talk about how the patriarchy is designed to keep women broke, burnt out, and quite frankly, competing against each other. The patriarchy has women turning against each other. And it baffles me to see this, but I have so many opinions on this. And I don't know, I'm curious to know what you think and whether this lands for you, how this lands for you. So let's talk about it. Now, this isn't something new where I've spoken about how, gosh, as soon as we find out someone is pregnant, all of a sudden, we're like, whoa, what's the gender? Have these gender reveals. Don't even get me started on gender reveals. I hate the idea of gender reveals um, because one, it's not gender, it's the sex of the baby, and it just annoys me so much. But anyway, that's the first thing, right? People are like, oh, you're having a boy or a girl. Do we get you pink or blue? We need to know so that we can figure out what to buy. And then once you find out, then it's like, you're having a girl. Oh my goodness. Oh, she's going to be such a sweet little thing. Like the language that is used before someone is even born is already setting the trajectory of their life up before they've even become earthside. And it just baffles me. I remember talking to someone who had boys, and she said, oh, well, you know, I've always given my kids the option of boys' toys or girls' toys, and they always want boys' toys. So we haven't tried to gender them. It's just happened. It's just how boys are. And I was like, okay. So when you put the TV on, or when you had people come and visit, when you went to the shops, what were they seeing there? What were they doing? How were they interacting? And turns out other people were buying them air quote boys' toys. Other people were buying them air quote boys' clothes. So we pick up all of these messages from society, left, right, and center. It's not just our parenting, it is also all of these other messages that influence how children, young children, will perceive the world and perceive themselves and their own gender identity as well, right? And as women, we are born with this idea of, well, girls are just more nurturing. No, no, we're not. That is inbuilt into us through social conditioning. It is inbuilt through, oh, you're so lucky to have a girl. She's going to be so sweet. And then people reward girls. Oh, she brought you a coffee. Look at her looking after her mother. Or all of these rewards that young kids are getting because they're a girl. And so you can't tell me that it is because we're just born that way. That bullshit. It is socialized. And then what continues to happen is not only is it that we are socialized that way, we are then also socialized to be mean to other women. We're not taught to be nice to other girls. We've learnt to identify other women as competition. Now, this happens, I guess, less so young, and it starts to develop in those teenage years where we start to learn that other girls are prettier than us. They're skinnier than us. They've got blonder hair than us. And it's in these really subtle ways. And this isn't stuff that you've heard that you haven't heard before. Magazines and social media and all of that kind of stuff, like we know that we absorb messages from that kind of content. All of this is filtering in messages around what we think we should look, what our body should look like, how we should dress, what clothes we should buy, how we should present ourselves, how we should speak to other people. And the thing is, though, what we learn is that there's only so much success, power, love that goes around. And if you don't fit into these very narrow stereotypical categories, then that's it. You're out. You're on the outside. You don't belong. And for women like us who are the rebels, who are the disruptors, who aren't the one that fit into the mold, that can be really isolating. That can be really jarring to feel like who you are isn't enough and that you don't fit in. It can be shit. And we get praise in some ways for not being like those other girls, not being like the bullies or the girls who wear I don't know, particular outfits. Yeah. And that's not to say that doing those things or to be that way is a problem if that's how you want to be. But I think the thing is, a lot of us don't know who we want to be or how we want to dress or how we want to behave or even the type of career that we want to go into because we're just kind of shuffled along, almost like this little I'm thinking, I don't know what it's called actually. I'm seeing it in my mind, but I don't know the word of it. I'm thinking like sheeps, how you go shear the sheeps or you herd the sheeps into the, God, I don't know. If you're a farmer, you would probably have more knowledge of this, but hopefully you're getting the gist of what I'm trying to say. I don't know what that's called. Oh my goodness. It shows how much I go to the country. I am so not a country girl. But what we learn is that there's only so much to go around, right? And if someone else has it, she has it, then you can't have it. So if you want what she has, then you need to work hard so that you can get it because you essentially we've learned that we have to take it off someone if we want what she's got. There's not enough for both of us to stand on this platform. We can't simultaneously be successful. We can't both simultaneously do the same thing. It just doesn't work that way. And I don't know, I find this crazy how, like, I think back to my school life, and I remember, holy moly, one time my high school best friend got her hair dyed for the first time, and I wanted to get my hair dyed, and I was like, oh, I want to get my hair dyed, and mum took me down to the hairdresser, and we got my hair dyed. I'm like, oh my gosh, but she's going to get jealous. She's going to get angry. She's going to be annoyed at me because she did it and now I'm doing it. And my mum's response was, we'll just lie. And I can't remember what the lie was. I have no idea. But it comes back to that idea of if they've done something, you can't do it too. And look, nuance, I love a little bit of nuance. I'm not talking about full on copying someone, pulling their ideas and doing the exact same thing, like in your business, for example, or going onto someone's website, pulling their copy and using it as your own. Of course not. Like, duh. But I'm talking about, like you want to, and I see this in psychology all the time. Like people are like, oh, I want to start an online coaching business, but there's already like other people doing it. So why bother? Bother because you're you and you can absolutely do it. One other person doing it, there's still hundreds of thousands of people out there that need your work. But we don't do it because we've been conditioned that if we do something and it heaven forbid, steps on another woman's toes, then we can't do that because we're worried about hurting their feelings. We're worried about being judged. We're worried about being copied, not being copied. We're worried about all of these external things. And instead of actually being inspired by it, right? So instead of being inspired by the fact that it's possible for someone else, therefore it's possible for us, no, we then just think we can't or shouldn't do it, which then keeps us in this comparison mode against other women. And we don't trust other women. We've constantly got vigilance with other women. And what then happens is the patriarchy, like the patriarchal systems benefit when women are distracted fighting each other rather than actually challenging these structures that keep us small. Because think about it. If women are so busy fighting each other because we've been socially trained into this scarcity mindset that there's not enough to go around, there's not enough. I remember when I was younger, back in the days when I thought I was straight and was dating men, there was this view around, oh, there's more women than men, so you better get in quick because if you don't, you're not going to get a partner. And it's like, I look back on that and I'm like, oh my God, really? Scarcity of men? Like, what? What the heck? So we internalize that as competition. And therefore, it keeps us in this dynamic where women are clawing against each other. And we then don't have enough energy to expend on other things like, I don't know, getting to know who we are and what we want, getting to build a life that feels good for us, or do things that bring us joy, or look at the toxic masculinity. We don't do any of that because we're too busy clashing with each other. We're not working with each other, we're clashing with each other. And so, because society rewards that, society rewards women who don't take up too much space, who follow the status quo, who follow the pathway, right? Like there's this pathway. You finish school, maybe you go to university, maybe you get a job. You find a partner, a man, get married, buy a dog, the white picket fence, nice car, have babies, have a good career. Oh no, the woman takes mat leave though, and relies on their husband. And then at 40, wonders why she's fucking miserable. The amount of women that I have seen in my psych practice back in the day, huh, wild. Because we're not taught to think critically. We're just taught to follow, again, the sheep. Boop, 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 boop. And then we wonder why we're fucking miserable. That is why you're miserable. But again, we're not quite like that. We've already gone against the status quo. We've started a business. We've said, I want more money. I want to do things differently. But by unlearning all of this conditioning, it's hard work, it's exhausting. And a lot of women don't want to do it because there's this false, very false sense of security by wrapping themselves up in the blanket of that societal lens. There's some safety in that, perceived safety. It's not really safe. It just keeps women stuck. It will keep future generations of women stuck. And again, this is why I do the work that I do, because I want you to unlearn that conditioning. Because when we unlearn this conditioning, we as women become fucking unstoppable. But we need to do that together. We cannot do this individually. It just doesn't work, right? Because it just doesn't work. We're community based. We cannot do that. When, and I guess like thinking about it and drawing that link to money and our business, right? Think about how what all of that means for you in your business. Because when we've got all of that conditioning, when we've got all of these messages that have come through so strongly, then it is so tough to take up space in our business, to grab the camera, to record a video, post it on social media, and have other people watching it. Because, I mean, half the time they're not even judging you, to be honest. But even if they did, it doesn't matter. They're not paying your bills. But our own anxiety, because of what we've been socialized to believe, is running the show. And the more that as women we can come together and go, and I also hate, I just want to add on that because I think as women we need to come together and really support each other. And there's so many, gosh, I see it all the time in networking groups. Oh, we support women and yay, women. What's underneath that, though, which really irritates me, is that we say that we're supporting women, but how we're supporting women is we're supporting women because they're in the room and they've paid for a ticket, even if their business is average. We'll still support them because they've paid for a ticket to be in the room. And I think that's bullshit. I think that's perpetuating the collective survival response, if I'm completely honest. I think it's still perpetuating that mean girl conditioning because it's like you buy a seat at the table and you belong, but it's not you belong just because the work that you're doing is good or that you are offering something of value. It's you belong because you've paid to be here. And then when people don't pay for a ticket, that's it, they're out. And look, don't get me wrong, again, nuance, I get that, networking events, yada, 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 need to make money. But I do think it's built on this foundation of scarcity. I think a lot of networking events are often built on this undercurrent of scarcity of I need to go to this networking event, I need to get clients. And that's my primary reason to go to this networking event is clients. So I'm going there operating from this energy. And I'm not there to actually collaborate and build relationships. I'm going there because I'm desperate. Not my vibe, which is why in my world, I want to build a regulated community. And I want to build a community of women that do come together, that are able to, I don't know, like sit with other women who are running a business because they want to be there, not because they're forced to be there, who are going to stand up for another woman because women matter, not because they've paid for a seat in the room or they haven't paid for a seat in the room, but because there's something deeper. I think as humans, and particularly as women, we have been so disconnected from each other because of this competition that we've forgotten how to hold each other. We've forgotten how to actually be supportive. And I don't think it's helpful. So to be able to be regulated and really hold and celebrate another woman's success without drawing ourselves into that scarcity mode of going, oh my goodness, if she's got it, I can't, I'm not enough. And like then snowballing and spiraling and feeling shit about ourselves. Oh, how good would it be not to feel that way? And what if collaboration was actually our own rebellion, right? Like what if that was our way of kind of taking back our power and saying, no, I'm worthy. I'm worthy of money. I'm worthy of wealth. I'm worthy to be me. And I'm not going to put myself in this box just because society has told me that I'm going to put myself in this box. Because when women can kind of help, like co-regulate with each other and truly lift each other up, then that's when money is really going to start to flow, particularly for women. But I don't think it's going to flow as freely until we learn how to really embrace connection with each other. Because we were never meant to compete with each other. Women were just not meant to compete with each other. We were meant to rise together, and the patriarchal systems that have benefited from our disconnection, fuck that, they're on notice because that's it. I'm using my voice and saying that's it, I'm done because, and I want you to say that too. I want you to have that permission to say that's it, I'm fucking done. Because things won't change for our generation and for future generations if we continue to stay silent. And I'm not talking about standing up on platforms and saying this is shit and things need to change. I'm talking about taking that individual action, learning to regulate yourself so that you can hold that space for other women. Because when we're able to regulate, when we're able to be so fucking tuned into ourselves, another person's accomplishments or life doesn't actually affect us because we're so connected with who we are as a person. And I just think that is the most underrated skill and resource that we can have. And when you do that, that's when life changes for the better. I remember, oh gosh, I don't know where this was. I'm going to end on this story because otherwise I'll just keep talking. Oh gosh, I wish I could remember where this was, but I remember seeing something somewhere and it was about this old grumpy bastard at a airport. And he was grumpy and just, I don't know, sitting on the waiting area chairs at the boarding gates, just grumpy as. And there was this little girl and she went up to him, smiling and laughing and just not a care in the world. And the mother of the child thought to herself, oh no, this is not going to end well. This guy looks like a grumpy bugger. And what ended up happening is the daughter's energy was so contagious that that old grumpy dude couldn't help but absorb that energy. And he ended up playing with her, laughing with her, having a great time before the flight took off. And that is the power of making these changes, because if you make this change and you step into your most authentic, powerful self that makes the wild money, that does these incredible things with your business, you are not taking away from someone else, right? You are showing other women what is possible. And if you show another woman what is possible, and then she decides to go on her own journey and shows another woman what's possible, and that ripples out, can you imagine what kind of world we would be living in? So that's what I'm talking about. We need to stop letting the way society has currently conditioned us to be the only way forward. Because quite frankly, if we keep doing that, that path sucks. And on that note, I feel like I need a big, deep sigh after that. If there is any woman in your world that you think needs to hear this conversation, send this podcast episode to her right now, because more women need to be hearing this conversation. And if you don't have anyone in your world that needs to hear this conversation, then the next best thing that you can do is leave a review of this podcast with some words, because that always helps, rather than just the rating, because that'll help get this podcast out to more listeners. So if you've listened this far, I appreciate you so much and would love if you could forward this episode to someone else or leave a review below. Until next week, have fun making money in your business. I'll chat to you all soon.